system or set some targets based on evidence and that kind of thing. That is non-partisan, that is not, you know, I think if this CCfC sort of positions itself in that way, it can be the most useful. It's not only about training. So.
Thank you very much. I think that's an excellent contribution. But even the CCfC, even in that, has a challenge, because you talk about an independent think tank. But to the extent that it finds itself housed within the University of the West Indies, where the funding comes largely from the state, to some extent, it is constrained. You would argue that it shouldn't be, right?
With respect, I think that it is that mindset that is killing you.
I so agree with you. So you and I are we're on that same wavelength. So he's talking about CCfC. So we're talking about what role you see CCfC playing, and then secondly, what role you see yourselves playing in your respective places.
Good morning, everyone. I'm still thinking it through, so really I'm going to articulate my working thoughts. The first thing I would see is to interpret what we have experienced to be applicable in our own particular scenario. So for me, I work in quality assurance, and my role is a regional role. So all the way through, whilst I'm taking in the information, I'm also converting it, trying to convert it. So what does it mean? What does it mean in real terms for my contribution? What does my value chain look like? Who are my actors? Who are the people that I would need to communicate with? Do I actually have data? I mean, I think that I do. There's been a lot of conversation about the lack of data, but certainly in my sector and in my portfolio, I have data. I have access to data. I guess what I would need to do is start to mine the data to determine what is actually telling me, and then how I use that information I have to perhaps begin to formulate what might not be called a council, but it actually, I'm just changing the language so that it does the same function. In terms of how that then is implemented, or it has impact or some kind of outcome, that's where I'm not yet clear, because as an individual, I can propose, I can maybe formulate a paper, but in terms of having weight, and weight, power, but weight, it might be to feed into your organization and have dialogue with your organization to see whether or not where it can go, if anywhere at all.
Previous speaker, I'm still trying to formulate where I see the intervention. But we have learned so much over this week. We have been exposed to so much knowledge, and both from academia and from the practical side of how things work. And I think that there is the role for CCfC is to help translate everything we've learned. The list of challenges identified up here, it's very clear to me that they need to be taken to policymakers and the other larger actors. And I'm not sure if it's whether through CARICOM or through whatever the regional body is of policymakers, this type of presentation be made to them. So coming out of here, I'm seeing at least the list of challenges and what are the suggested interventions to respond to these challenges be presented at the CARICOM level, so that at least the prime ministers are sensitized, that we at the operating level, at that level, are aware of what needs to be done, and therefore they need to take the required action, because we are expecting that from them. It's not that they're operating at that level. We are all aware of what's going on. We understand what needs to happen. And also there are resources on the ground through you to make this a reality.
So where are we and how can we impact? I think we have presentations that can be shared with the various, because they're very specific. I mean, you have Barbados tourism, you have other things on CCI in Guyana, Trinidad, and what have you. So we can certainly share these things at least for consideration as one very specific next step. Secondly, I think that some of the things that we've discussed, we can try to do, at least where there are organizations ourselves, and where we are not organizations with individuals, try to influence those organizations with which we have a link, either through membership or collaboration. So for example, TTCSI did a study last year where we identified some sectors for development based on data, education, yachting, medical, and the professional services. And we're now trying to put things in place to operationalize or to act or to implement some of the suggested activities. But then there are other dimensions. So while I left yesterday, I was talking to some people about expanding possibly the CDI into services to ensure that we don't get blocked with our medical graduates, as what is happening in St. George's University, to complete their course of study. So we have to try and make these linkages and point these things out to the policymakers and really be a mechanism for them to get the information. And I do agree that we have to get it up to CARICOM, but we have to be very mindful of their limitations, attention span, and other things. But we do have to get it done at regional level too. And what has worked for TTCSI, if we can say so, is be open to collaboration. If we had come into this space as a new organization, we were only 7 years old, and said we're not collaborating with anybody, we'd have been dead in the water. But the fact that we tried to do as many of our things with somebody has been tremendously helpful. And so the open collaboration. So what I'm saying is we share the presentations, we do what we can on our own and try to drive and bring resources that feed into the wider process. We engage and we collaborate as we try to push forward those initiatives that matter to us.
Let me start regionally and then come individually. Regionally, I would like to see the center take a role in terms of, we talk about the national innovation systems, but regionally pinpointing those productive actors as well. Now, we would agree to disagree that CARICOM may be a productive actor depending on which side you sit. Yeah, correct. But I think perhaps if Indira hasn't done this already, which I would not be surprised if she has, but identifying the regional organizations that are really movers and shakers in terms of what they've been able to do, what they've been able to actually accomplish based on their mandate, and how effective they've been, so that we take a strategic approach to who we align ourselves. I say we because we align ourselves with regionally, and then once we build that base, then I think you take it to the CARICOM level, where then it's no longer just CCfC as a university-based organization, but having different aspects, looking at private sector regionally, scientific councils, regional research councils regionally. So then you get a stronger backing to go forward.
Again, a really excellent recommendation, Juliana. I tell you, from so far in the experience that CCfC has had, even that is a challenge in terms of there are obvious institutions, regional institutions that are doing very well. But when you attempt to get them to collaborate with you, their walls, Star Trek, but when there is a threat outside, they put up the shield immediately goes up, and there is a refusal of sharing. And somehow we are not able to see that there's space, because there's so much work to be done. that there is space and that they really we need to do it together. And breaking that challenge is really, and I mean, you all are here from so many different countries because it is the CCfC model. Working together, sharing the opportunities for learning without really having any hold on anybody in terms of what you go there and do it. And do with it, and without having the capacity for that to grow CCfC, but it is the model, and it's a model that we committed to and we will keep.
The national persons that have participated / are aware of what you're doing, letting them play a more champion role.
Absolutely.
In those organizations, not in the national organizations as well, but also in the regional organizations that are within their own jurisdiction, their countries, to then get them on board.
Correct.
Where is the private sector in the room?
Not for want of trying.
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I totally agree with you.
We have the organizations that are here. Maybe what's necessary is not a top-down approach in terms of how we define a policy for innovation, because I submit that if the private sector were motivated enough to move in this direction, the policymakers would follow. They would have absolutely no reason not to. We have to improve the learning on the innovation and the innovation system. The system.
Okay, it's not what we need to do. I'm asking you, how do we get them around here? No. The mechanism to bring them, I understand what we want to bring them to do, which is what you're going.
Yeah.
Don't answer that. Answer, how do we bring them in a room around the table? And we have private sector people here, so everybody doesn't have to come from Celine. It can come from other people. What do we need to do?
Wait, let's go back to definitions. What do we need to do? The CCfC, the BSOs?
Anybody.
It is the BSOs that will get them in a room around the table, around the innovation.
Okay, so maybe it is the BSO that needs to say, for example, CCfC or compete. Look, we need a short intervention in firm-based innovation. Work with us to find the necessary person to come in. I don't think they'll come for 4 days. I think they may come for a half day. Those are the kinds of things.
I submit that it's more important in terms of who you select. Because, again, I reiterate my point of yesterday. Do not underestimate the power of the anti-growth coalition, of which the private sector is part and parcel and encourages. So you have to be very, very clear on who it is that you engage in this process.
I totally agree with you.
And that has to be at the local level and at the level of the BSOs who serve these constituents.
Okay, so I think that a very important point.
I wanted to support Julianne's earlier point made about CCfC being the coordinating hub for those productive innovation contact points in the region, but also for the point not to be lost. I think Fred made the point in his presentation that innovation need not be rocket science. It is simply something that is new to the market, something that's brought new to the market. And I don't think that we in the region are going to be pioneers in terms of innovation. We're not going to bring rocket science to any sector, but at least we should be bringing innovative methods, methodologies, etc. to our products and services in the region.
I had indicated that I would love to see CCfC playing a coordinating role in terms of engaging the different persons who are involved in the process.
So we made that point.
Yes. For example, I'm a BSO in Jamaica. I know what some of the sectors are that we're working on that has a process for doing something. How would I be able to filter the information to you to find out what similar activities are taking place in other countries, that then we could have this knowledge shared, because my businesses don't have the capacity to travel to Trinidad or wherever to do it. That is the sort of thing that I'm thinking.
Excellent. That's an excellent something that we need to address.
There's a story of there's a ton of logs being needed to be moved. And there was a young, strong young man, and an old man sitting there. And the young man, is getting angry with the old man because the logs to be moved and the old man is just sitting there. So he's sweating and he's trying to move the logs, etc. And he's quarreling at the same time because the old man is just sitting back. And the old man, all he does is, as persons pass on the road, he says to each person, could you please help an old man move a log? And each person complies and helps him move the log. And eventually, despite the young person, being so agitated and wanting to move all the logs and not having, the old man gets the job done. Because it's done a little bit at a time. I'm saying that because we come from these workshops and many times we want to impress the big people and get to the big organizations and so. But I think maybe that, like I can speak for myself, I think the work has to begin with oneself. So for example, as an individual consultant, where I see my role is just moving one log at a time, which is, I have the opportunity for when I do consultancies to deal with individual companies. And so, the work that I take in terms of innovation, rural value chain, etc., is through my recommendations to these individual firms. I don't want to move to CARICOM to impress the people. I don't want to move to the CC competitiveness, whatever. I just want to be able to impact those individual businesses that I use my recommendations. And I think that is where we need to go in terms of each person. So you're in research, you're the person across there said she was into data quality assurance. So that is in your little corner, you move there. As an independent consultant, I think I have clout because when I go and I say to when you consultancy, what you're asking for some recommendations, and I have the power now to use my knowledge that I have to make specific recommendations for them in terms of innovation. And I think that that's how we can do it, moving at one log at a time with the wisdom of that old man.
Thank you very much, Heidi. What we're just hearing here, and we must appreciate, is that the thing has happened at different levels simultaneously. So at the individual level, at an organization level where it's a BSO, at a regional level where it's at a CCfC, at a regional coordinating level with CCfC and a number of other regional institutions, and then at the highest level where it's a CARICOM or regional governments. So we're talking all of it at the same time, and we're trying to build strategies out of this conversation that can allow it to happen at all the different levels at the same time.
Yesterday when I spoke, the first thing I spoke about was factual, and the second was provocative. And I'm glad that today that we have been provoked to speak in a certain way, because all too frequently we attend these sessions and we say, good time, and what's the follow-up? What is going to happen next? And at this session, there's a lot of conversation about collaboration and politics, and the politicians are not doing it. But I don't have much hope of the politicians doing realistically, just so, right? And I think I look at the role of the CCF in terms of a facilitator, and we must think in terms of space. What is the space that allows us to continue this conversation? What is this space that allows us to collaborate and share ideas and to move this process in another way? And the space I'm talking about to a certain extent is in terms of a community of knowledge, a community in terms of innovation. I'm going to draw a little parallel. I don't know how many people here heard about IPDET. Anybody here heard about IPDET? It is it's a Canadian program that happens every year. It's the International Program for Development, Evaluation and Training. It's going on right now, every year, June to July. Beginning of June to July. You have people from all over the world meeting to discuss issues in terms of evaluation. I can't remember when it started, but what happened is that it was felt that there was insufficient attention paid to evaluation of policy, evaluation of all sorts of different activities. And you had the Carleton University with the World Bank starting this sort of program. So you discuss various issues related to evaluation. And one of the important things related to this program is that on leaving the program in July, you are part of an online community which is managed by IPDET. And with that online community, you are able to share the views and you could ask questions and seek help across space, in spectrum of space. And I don't want, it's a suggestion I'm making here. I don't want to see that we have come to this session yet. We have come to several and the conversation stopped. Like I must say that we have been able to share a lot of information. We have been able to enrich one another in terms of what we think and in terms of our experiences. And my position has always been, the object is not to be right, the object is to learn. Because we may have an ideology or philosophy which we may not realize that is in the box. But by engaging with each other respectfully, we may be able to fine-tune the position in terms of what we see. I think that in terms of that, I think that how I see the CCF is in terms of facilitating this process. I'm trying to avoid saying politicians should do this, CFC should do this. The responsibility is ours, and we need to act, and we need to act now. There's no better time to act than to act now. And this is where I see the beginning of the process. Thank you.
It may be coincidental, but I was just about to say we need to build that same network among ourselves and to be very honest when we have problems and when we have solutions to share. But he has made that point. My other point was that perhaps you may look a little bit more at marketing, how you market the courses. Because if you say it is on policy and you want to get individual private sector people, that may give them the wrong impression. Whereas if you look and package that part of your marketing specifically to them, but it would be the same program, you may emphasize some other point. And there's also the use of the web to see if you can engage them early or maybe let them be part of your whole package or your whole community so that when you have something, they'll be already online with you.
One of the things that struck me throughout this workshop is the opportunity that presents itself for organizational innovation. A lot of efforts or a lot of emphasis is on technological innovation, but we recognize at the national level, national processes, regional level, that there are significant, we hear about silos, we hear about other inhibitions, but I think that is creating in itself a bit of inertia that is preventing us from moving forward. And I had a conversation with a colleague this morning, and I strongly believe that maybe part of your role would be to encourage academia in terms of the social sciences, in terms of how do we overcome the hurdles of mistrust and so on that inhibits the kind of progress that we can make with organizational innovation. So I think you need to engage them in that way as a particular issue in terms of a challenge to overcome.
I think the challenge is how do we harvest all of this knowledge, skills base to really achieve the strategic objectives in the region. And that to me is how do we make that transition from knowledge towards real, meaningful, transformational change that will improve and impact quality of life that we should be, or we anticipate in the Caribbean. And I'm thinking that there needs to be a galvanizing message that literally creates a seismic shift of a cultural mindset towards enabling us to really move with the 21st century. Look, the technology is drastically changing. For example, you have the Caribbean is, I would say that we have caught up, so to speak, with technology very quickly. Took us nearly 30 years to get the ATM in the Caribbean, but we got it. Now things are happening rapidly. Our capacity now is how can we effectively respond to changes in technology and really strategically position ourselves in the 21st century. And I think that from this workshop, I would like to see just the strategic objectives of what CCfC would like us to go back with in terms of our own contribution. And as Dr. Gonzalez would say, towards the enablement or the annulment of our Caribbean civilization. What is it that we can do in our own backyard so that we can contribute towards this whole paradigm shift in development. Thank you.
It is from start to end involving all of the key stakeholders, so there is ownership of the doing, constructing, implementing, and monitoring.